Hello and welcome to Story X Story, the podcast by Maya Matter that dives deep into stories across pop culture plus gives you advice on creating your own. It's episode 224 and I'm your co-host Nigel.
And I'm your host for today, Doomed Prinny. Tazziii is in
She's
somewhere
on,
doing
yeah,
a
somewhere undisclosed
masterful.
location.
No, we're not doxing where Tazziii is. All you need to know is she's somewhere having a great time.
She's safe. She's safe somewhere. But yeah, Tazzy will be back with us. We're doing something a little different. We've got a cool roundtable today. I'm going to learn a lot about cosplay. So, because as always, we are bringing you interesting discussions with diverse voices. So, to help us out with I'm going to say cosplay tutorial, is cosplayer and content creator Coco. Coco, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Coco's been on. Actually, you've been on quite a few times
I
now.
have.
Yeah, you have. I realized because you were last with us when we talked about Coco, the film, not the person, but we have also talked about the person, Coco, in our interview. I think that was your first appearance. And then what was the other one we did? Luca. There we
Yeah.
go. There we go. Cool. All right. So yeah, you know how this all works. Yeah. So welcome back. We do have some first timers. We have a cosplayer and content creator, Bekzxx. Bekzxx, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. And we also have a streamer of FPS and RPGs, cosplayer and content creator, Dani. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you all for being here. And again, Tazziii is safe. She will be back. But you can subscribe to Story X Story wherever you get your podcast from. That includes Apple Podcasts and Spotify, YouTube as well. We're putting episodes out on YouTube. You can send us your feedback and questions in a variety of ways. You can send us a voice message on our Spotify for Podcasters page. You can email us studio77@myamatter.com, or you can throw your thoughts at us on social media. We are at MyMatter on Twitter, at MyMatterTV on Instagram and TikTok, and at MyMatter.com on Blue Sky. You can also get to Tazziii at Life of a W Gamer on Instagram and TikTok, and at Tazziii on everything else, including Blue Sky as well. You can also check out mymatter.com, where you can get our latest manga and just learn more about the MyMatter brand. We're working on a new site. It'll be ready at some point. TBC. But you can also join the Discord as well, be part of the Maya Matter community there. Before we get to today's discussion, let's update you with the latest from the Maya Matter universe. We do have a new manga that you can get from our website. You can also get from some upcoming events we'll be talking about in the coming weeks and months as he checks the calendar. But yeah, we were recently at DoujinCon, which is a cool event, so we bought our comics there. But yeah, we've got some events coming up that we'll be announcing soon, and you can always get the comics from mymatter.com. So the latest one, Origins Against All Odds, is about Tazziii with creative license, but it's about her journey and her character's journey to the Maya Matter universe. We're doing a series, the Origins series, which eventually will see each of our real life team turned into anthropomorphic characters in the Maya Matter universe. And yeah, I'll do a story about each of them. Not sure what I'm going to do when it comes to my story, but we'll deal with that when we get there. If you have any interest in video games or just curious, you can check out the Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign. This is our yearly campaign promoting inclusion and diversity in the games industry. We do a snapshot of 40 players and makers. Half of our guests have been in the campaign. The other half, there's always hope. So we do photos of people who are in and around games as a way to showcase representation, diversity where it does exist, and hopefully encourage more of it among future generations of diverse talent. And then we do events over the year. So we have MCM Comic Con in October is a major one. We were there in May. We'll be back in October showcasing the campaign photos and doing a bunch of things on stage. We've got a workshop planned as well. And yeah, you can catch us there. The team will be there. We'll have a booth somewhere. Once we figure out the exact location, we'll put that on our website. And just a note to follow up, that we have unfortunately had to cancel the Games Industry Explained Roundtable event for this year. It's a whole thing with sponsorship and lack thereof. So it just means we've had to take some unfortunate decisions with some of the events that we do. But we're hoping we'll be able to come back to that in 2026. But if you are looking for a video games related roundtable, particularly for those looking for careers in the games industry, we will be doing a roundtable at Comic-Con. So we'll kind of like transfer what we're going to do there to Comic-Con and then come back with a entire event for next year's campaign. But yeah, stay tuned. We've got other announcements to come on the campaign events, how you can get involved for this year and also next year. You can always catch us on Twitch as well. Each month we do different shows. This is our Studio 77 platform where we do different shows talking to creative professionals and practitioners, and we also play games for your amusement. So each month we have the Studio 77 report. That's where Tazziii and I talk about the latest goings on in the My Matter universe. We've got casual conversations with comic creators where I speak to a different comic creator about themselves, really, about them, the craft of making comics, any new projects they've got as well. And then we've got Games Night, where we bring the community together and we play a different game, or we return to a game that we've enjoyed previously. So yeah, take your pick. And then it's always fun though, except maybe the last one was a bit kind of broke us, but we won't talk about that for now. But anyway, yeah, so make sure you're following us on Twitch. We'll also stream on YouTube as well. You can catch us on either. And if you are a young aspiring creative professional or you know one, then check out the My Matter Showrunners Work Experience Program. So we're creating opportunities for young people aged 16 and up to work with our team across comic creation, events, content creation. Depends where interests and skills are. We've got a bunch of opportunities for the rest of the year, and especially as we go into next year. So you can email us to find out more, showrunners@mymatter.com, and we'll let you know everything. So now you're all caught up with the My Matter universe. Let's get into a cosplay discussion.
You guys may remember me for different episodes. Doomed Prinny. I love RPGs, and I think that's the first way to introduce us in cosplay. So everyone, when did you start cosplaying, and what was your first one? For me, I actually Googled because I remember what convention I first ever cosplayed at. It was MCM Comic Con Expo when the Merlin cast came to visit, and that was actually 2009. And I remember that vividly because I cosplayed as Pikachu. And I made the cosplay from scratch, aka back then what felt. I didn't have anything fancy. I didn't know about fabric stores, hand stitched everything. To be honest, I was like, no one's going to get what it is. And the reason why I remember this vividly was because the cast members, Bradley James and Colin Morgan, actually came up to me and were like, oh, are you supposed to be Pikachu from Pokemon? And I was like, oh my God, the actors are talking to me. And then they basically were like, oh yeah, we love Pokemon. And then the person who actually played Merlin in the show, Colin, was saying how he used to dress up as Ash from Pokemon. So for me, that was really nice and universal, that there was something that kind of brought us all together to have a little chat. And Pokemon was like one of my favorite RPGs at the time. So it was really cool and heartwarming. So what about you guys? What was your first ever cosplay? Should we start with Bekzxx?
The exact same convention, 2009, MCM London Comic Con. The exact.
Oh yeah.
It's a small world. I cosplayed Jill from Resident Evil, but I ended up cutting my mum's pillow in half to create her shoulder pads, which was a great thing because I didn't really understand what cosplay was at the time. I just saw everyone was going to London Comic Con as it was all sort of advertised, and thought, yeah, I'm gonna go. And then my friend was like, oh, you don't want to go as a normie? And I went, what's a normie? They're like, oh, someone that doesn't cosplay but just goes around the convention. I'm like, there's
That sounds like
categories
me.
for people. So I was like, okay, quick, I'm gonna think fast. What do I do? So I cut up my mum's pillow with making the shoulder pads, stitched it all together with hand sewing everything together. I found loads of different pins and everything, and then I just got t-shirts and stuff from Primark, as one does. And you could technically call it a closet cosplay nowadays, but it was my first cosplay. It was a big deal for me, and I met so many Resident Evil fans. I actually didn't know that when you walk down the aisles in MCM when you go to collect your tickets, everyone had their hands out so that you could high five them along the way. I got numerous amount of people going, "Hey, it's Jill. You're a Jill sandwich." I'm like, I still don't understand what you mean. That's great. Cool. I'm gonna carry on. And yeah, I had a fantastic day.
I know, humble beginnings, right? And then
I know,
my
right?
hands were full for days from the hand stitching. I was like, there must be an easier way.
Never is, because I still do it to this day.
Oh, girl, you got this down at least. Great. And how about yourself, Coco?
I first started cosplaying in 2016. Again, I went to my first convention in what would be considered as a closet cosplay, but I actually quite enjoy doing closet cosplays. It's very much taking what you have and making what you can with it. It can come across as more of like a fashion style, if not an adapted version of a character. I went as Esmeralda, which is, your classic. I think it's Disney. Is it Disney or DreamWorks? I think it's Disney. Yeah, and it was really good. I went with two college friends. They didn't dress up, but I did because I was like, "Wait, is this the one where you dress up?" And they've been to conventions prior and said to me the same. They were like, "Yeah, yeah." So I just kind of, got on a train fully in cosplay, like maybe I shouldn't do this. And then when I got there, I was totally welcomed because everyone else was also wearing their own cosplays, and I was able to, I don't know, feel like someone else for a day, play the bit of the character. It's really fun. So that's kind of what got me into it, was like my first introduction, but then enjoying it more was definitely more the creative side. So kind of continued from there. Really enjoyed it. It was good. 2016 though. Ooh, it's a while ago.
Oh yeah. And to be honest, you must have really appreciate comfy cosplays from that moment, right? Because now we put in so much more, and it's like, oh.
Oh yeah, fully. I think it's really interesting going from like a closet cosplay, which is like basically three pieces of fabric that's pinned together, to then trying to like sew something down to size. Like I've learned a lot more about tailoring and different like strengths of fabric, and that world is massive. And for some, it goes into props and it goes into wigs for some. But it really is just a whole world and just a really good skill set, because even if you didn't want to continue going down that route, you can still go down a fashion route, and man, the world just gets bigger, doesn't it? The more you learn.
Yeah, you can see so many different creative diversions, like the gajinkas, the gender benders, and all sorts. How about yourself, Dani?
So my first cosplay was 2013. It was a very small kind of local convention. It was a Halloween themed convention as well, so it's kind of like an excuse to get dressed up for Halloween. But I went with two friends of mine, one of whom was also a first time cosplayer and Comic-Con goer, and the other one was slightly more experienced with it. And it was same as Bekzxx. I was kind of told, like, you don't want to go as a normie, you don't want to go in normal clothes. And I was like, oh my God, okay, right, I have a week to pull together a cosplay. So I was, grabbing at bed sheets and an old pair of jeans. And I think I spray painted a pair of like boots that I got from a charity shop. Never again, by the way, I don't buy shoes from charity shops anymore, but and I ended up going as a very botched version of Storm from the X-Men comics. Yeah, it wasn't the best cosplay in the world, to be honest. I've never really shown it off and like shown people pictures of it because it was bad. And this was also before I realized that there was kind of like a contradiction between wearing a hijab but wearing a wig. So I wore a wig on top of it, which was really fun as well. It looked so stupid, but it was a really good day though. It kind of sparked this new love of cosplay and Comic Cons and nerdism for me, because before that I was very kind of closed off to that world, and I thought that I was, a rare breed of nerd and someone who enjoyed games and comics and all these movies and books and shows that I didn't think anyone else knew of. So it was really, really cool. I made so many friends, and some of them I still talk to today and still, hang out with. And then obviously from there it kind of branched out and became what it is now.
See, you brought up a really good point. I think because there's, especially in the older days, like when we first walked in, there was so much pressure. Oh yeah, you want to dress up like this is a thing. Whereas now, it's so relaxed. You can just wear what you want. You can just walk in jeans. It's not a big deal. Or if you want to be really clever, you want to wear jeans and a t-shirt that's from a TV show, and then it will blend in that you are doing it like a very casual cosplay.
Exactly. No, it's definitely like your expression of being a nerd changes, doesn't it, over time? Like the first couple of years, I remember I couldn't go to an event without bringing something brand new. And then it went from bringing something brand new to bringing something I'd worn before. And then it went from that to I'll just throw on a t-shirt and, sort of like a reference, like a pin or, a colors that match a certain character. People will get it. And then it just went to, I'm just going to turn up as myself and enjoy the other cosplayers.
And that actually is a good point to move to the next question. Like, when we're talking about getting cosplays like perfect, right? How much does the role of like photo editing help out when, like, for example, you've got like maybe an off shade of the correct color, or maybe you had a bit of a disaster that day and a piece fell off? I mean, myself, I don't do much editing. I hate editing. Editing's like sun on a vampire. I'm like, no, whatever's happened has happened. So it will be, it will be. Whatever the photo is, I will live with it. But how about yourself, Dani? If you want to continue.
For me, I'd say 50-50 in terms of colors and shades and things like that. I am, unfortunately, for everyone around me and myself, a perfectionist. And so I tend to try and get the colors right myself. And I can't actually think of a time where I asked someone to Photoshop or like edit the shade or the color of something. Definitely, though, in the case of like broken pieces or pieces that just fall off, because obviously, a lot of the times you'll be wearing this cosplay for like 10, 11 hours in a day. And say if you don't shoot with a photographer until the very end of the day, you're more likely to have things fall off or things that slip or come out of place or whatever, and you don't always catch it until you look at the shots afterwards. Yeah, there's been a couple of times where I've asked someone like, can you just either just get rid of it completely because it looks a bit weird and there's just no need for it if it's hanging off, say if it was like a smaller part, like a detail. Or I have a friend who's a photographer who does who edits obviously his work himself, and he is a bit of a stickler for little details that shouldn't exist. So for example, if you're wearing, like, just on the topic of when I said the boots before, if you're wearing like shoes that have a certain branding on them, he'll go that extra mile of getting rid of that branding just to kind of make it fit a bit better. Yeah, I'm not as fussed about things like that, though. I feel like it's not as deep to me to over edit. Edits for me kind of enhance the picture. They don't necessarily change it, or they shouldn't change it too much. Like, I'm a big fan of, like, a big advocate for not, for example, editing your face, purely because I just think that it's so nice to see like people looking the way that they actually are and like bringing some of themselves into their characters. And again, this is coming from me, a massive perfectionist. But I kind of like that. I like that everyone brings a personal touch to it. So I think editing does play a massive role, but I'm not personally the biggest like advocate for it. It's not something I would say to someone like, I want you to edit this and make it look like this, or do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. How about yourself, Coco?
Just to play devil's advocate, I'm on the other side of that. No, I'm kidding. It's half and half. I've seen quite a lot of people use photo editing in a really, really creative way. There's a League editor a League of Legends editor that I follow. She counts herself as a cosplayer when in reality she takes maybe one or two pictures just to kind of get a contrast. But in order to save money from buying or making a cosplay, she will kind of digitally photo impose the character's costume onto herself rather than it's really interesting and look really good too, but she doesn't change the likeness of her own face, which I do think is important because that sense of identity is very well, in my opinion, is like kind of gold. You can't really change that too much without it just being a painting essentially. And I think if you do have the creative skill, but also the need for a creative outlet that doesn't have to necessarily be physical, it's a really good way to get into cosplay. Some people say that it isn't. I think it's each to their own. I personally obviously have physical cosplays, but if I'm like, right, I really, really like this character, but I don't, have any money at the moment, so I'll go off and I'll do something else. Or maybe I don't have, a giant floating orb that isn't real. Maybe I'll add that on. And it's as Dani said before, like adding the extra layer of detail can really be the difference between like a really, I'm going to use the term popping. I don't really know if that comes through, but a more exciting image can be enhanced by photo editing, I think. But, you never really need too much. A good picture will always be a good picture. So yeah, I'm on the line. I'm on the fence. I enjoy it. A good fence sitting when it comes to photo editing.
Well, I mean, there's no wrong or right answer. It's just
Yeah.
wanting to know everyone's take on it all. How about yourself, Bex? How do you feel?
So I'm partially blind, hence the glasses. You can't see that, but I can notice that from my perspective here. Um, but I think contact lenses, changing your eye color to match certain characters, is one of the sort of editing things that I've done. And also my biggest pet peeve, and that's only for me personally, is eyelashes. I can't wear false eyelashes, so I will look to edit my eyelashes because I don't have any, like they're non-existent. And then as I've got older as well, probably asking photographers a little bit more to smooth out a little bit more of my wrinkles and stuff like that. But I'm on a journey at the moment to loving myself a little bit more, because the whole reason I got into cosplay was to portray a character that I'm not personally. But as I've got older, I've now started to transpire the dressing up as that character to loving myself. And I think Dani said earlier that you get to a point now, you just attend conventions just as yourself, or you wear like a t-shirt, or even more like more closet cosplays and stuff. And it's nice that I can now do that more, and I'm starting to sort of love that side a little bit more. Yeah, I'm just trying to grow in that perspective in terms of like photo editing as well, but nothing in terms of cosplay side. I've never sort of like looked at any like photo editing on costumes or anything like that. And I guess I come from an era that if it's digital, it's more photo editing rather than cosplay. So this is a new term to me as well, when it's edited cosplay rather than the general norm of it being photo editing, if that makes sense.
No, I get that. For me, I've never heard of that at all. I was actually blown away when Coco was talking about that photographer who superimposed outfits. I was like, wow, that's the thing. Had no idea. And actually, that would be really convenient, but I need skills for that, so that's not going to be me.
I mean, there are people out there that are incredibly skilled and that can do that, but I've seen people on the internet have two sides to that coin, whereas people are copying other people's costumes and then superimposing their faces onto it, and then they get in trouble because that's not a cosplay that they originally made. However, they've then produced this amazing digital art piece, which where's the line drawn from there?
Yeah, that's true. That's very naughty. That's when the lines of, oh, could have just AI'd that. Less
Yeah.
implication, I guess,
Hmm.
but instead of stealing someone's actual physical picture or, ah,
Yeah.
people.
Really bad.
So, take you away from cosplay for a second, guys. When you're not cosplaying, what are you doing? Coco, how about yourself?
Very many a thing. I think a good start would probably be like, other than cleaning my cosplay room, because honestly, in between each project, it just turns into a total tip. I'm probably going to be doing something music related and maybe garden related, because I'm living up north and we've got plenty soil to be potted. I'm gardening and spending quite a lot of time away from social media,
That's a good
just
idea.
to, yeah, just to kind of cleanse and come in. It's quite nice to just be able to. I'm growing tomato plants at the moment, just to give you a little,
It's
to
good
paint a
you've
little
got
picture
actual
there.
touch of grass. I love it.
Yeah, I do. It's really nice. I think it's also because it's summer. I know that the second the sun disappears, I'll be like, okay, it's time to go inside again. And that'll probably be me cleaning again. I do quite like editing videos, and I'm gonna take it upon myself to learn to dance. That's gonna be my next thing.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna focus on it and then probably get distracted 2 minutes later, but I'll update you next time.
Oh no, that sounds very exciting. How about yourself, Danny?
Does crying count? No.
Damn
Let me
it.
think.
Danny's there the night before the prom, still making a cosplay. I know exactly why Danny's crying.
Do you know what it is? That's exactly it. That's exactly it. No, I cry because I am too busy and I never have the chance to just take a nap like normal people. I have a 9 to 5, so if I'm not doing cosplay or content stuff, I'm working. If I'm not working, then I'm probably just chilling with friends. I love the beach and I love to go out on the beach. So I'm very lucky that I also live up north where I'm quite close to the sea. So I'm on there quite a lot. Otherwise, I am just buried in a book or playing something on the Xbox.
Happiness.
Yay.
What about yourself, Bex?
Well, I have ADHD, so where do I start? When I'm
Well,
not cosplaying. Sorry, I didn't mean to be a call
Relate.
out there. Primarily when I'm not cosplaying, I'm again working a 9 to 5, but I also play Fortnite a lot with my community because I stream as well. If it's not that, it's making videos. And then at the moment, mixing a little bit of what Coco said as well, I actually think I'm like the 7th member of Cat's Eye at the moment, so I'm learning all the Cat's Eye dances, trying to improve
Yay.
myself.
It's really good. We love getting a good jig. We love dancing.
Yes. Oh, definitely. I don't care how I look. I'm just gonna keep doing it.
No, fantastic. I think it's great to branch out, to be honest, and do something out of your comfort zone. I'm far too lazy to do any of that. My hobby, well, what I'm doing when I'm not cosplaying, I think the best I can do that gets me out of the house is probably going gym. And at the moment, I'm really into doing like weights and stuff like that. So when I'm not doing that, I also just chilling out and playing games most of the time, Twitch streaming. Oh yeah, editing videos. God, that's never ending. The
Yeah.
master pile. And was there anything else that is non-game related? I don't know. It's sometimes I forget and things blur. I remember someone asked me what I did one day, and I was like, I can't remember. I had like 6 invites, and I can't remember what I actually did. I went to Nigel's Mayamada networking and cupcake event, and I think I had like 3 invites that day, and I was like, I just wanted the most chill one where I could just, sit, stuff my face full of cupcakes. And the event it
Yeah, we got
provided.
that.
I had cake.
Yeah.
I had 2 cakes, in fact.
I took the rest home with me, so I had cakes all week.
Fantastic. Going a bit more in depth now, guys. Looking at, the digital age kind of evolving cosplay, so to speak. How do you think COVID changed the cosplay community? I think I'll start off first so everyone can have a little think about it. So I think I'd been going to pretty much almost, I'd say, every MCM Comic Con London specifically since 2009. And that was in different capacities, right? So I was stewarding for a few years. I was there as a press. There were a few times I did panels. And the cosplay community really evolved during that time. And when we hit, so we'd gone from, I think Bex mentioned the high fives and also free hugs, glomping, like a lot of physical touching engagement. And, just us being quite comfortable with each other, we're all nerds, we can all like chill out together, instant trust. To as soon as COVID came along, I think, God, Comic Con was never the same after that for a few years, I remember the masks, the having to like stand like not as close to each other, no hugging. Hugging was illegal. Is that a thing? That was it was
Literally, it
quite
was illegal. Yeah.
yeah, it was illegal. It was frowned upon, and I feel like everyone had kind of gone a bit insular because, especially COVID, was almost like a year, right? And it's like we all lost social skills. Like, can we say hello to each other? Oh no, we don't want to get too close. What happens if we breathe on the other person? And it was like we'd been backwards trained, like to stay away from each other, a little bit like. I mean, taking it away from the cosplay community, I just remember being on the bus and someone coughing and then everyone just running to the back of the bus to get away from this person. That was quite scary, and now we laugh about it or we think it was just a bit over the top, but back then it was quite serious. So I feel like people kind of distanced themselves from each other, and that whole feel of the whole word of community, the meaning changed because I think we were just quite maybe scared or just didn't know how to behave after that time. How did you guys feel? We'll start with Coco.
I feel like community is quite interesting. I remember, I think it was just after 2021. So I don't know if it was 22 or 21, but it was actually my first creator event was at London Comic Con, because I think they were trying to get more people kind of back out after a lot of the lockdown. So they were like, okay, we need to bring people back to this event. And then for, I think, the year after, a light kind of, after they started to like let people back out, it was still like normal numbers. And then almost a year after that, it was just very heavy. There was a lot of people going. It was always been crazy busy since. So that's been about like, what, 4 years now of just very, very full, both London, Manchester, Birmingham. I've not been to any of the Scottish ones. Sorry, Scotland, I'll be there soon. But like, I just feel like since COVID, it's been flooded just with a lot of people.
It feels like the one that's bounced back, the only one that's really bounced back event wise and
Yeah.
cosplay wise as well.
It's weird because when you say bounce back in terms of like the influx of like tickets and people going, yes, but I also feel like, I mean, the artist alley for the most part has been still present, which is nice to see, and the people that like the talent that has come in, like voice actors and stuff like that, they are also still present. So it's good that more or less a majority of the core values are still there, but I do also know that MCM, and then from MCM there's MegaCon, and that kind of came out of MCM, and I don't know
Yes.
whether that's just like a branch of a vibe or whether that's like a branch of management. I can't really remember much of the crossover, to be honest. But all it meant for me as a northern cosplayer was that I can now have, because they did have MCM Manchester, because that was the first one that I went to, and now there is no longer an MCM, but there is a Mega Con Manchester. And there's also, I think it's just called Comic Con, and they do the, what are they called? Poly something.
Monopoly events.
Monopoly, yes. I don't know
Yeah.
why. The word Monopoly really didn't like my brain. Yeah, so the Monopoly events, they're also in Liverpool as well. So a lot of the kind of northwest, northeast, like just all the way across there, they also double. So I'm obviously a big fan of that because it means that I don't feel obligated to go to as many of the southern ones. So
Yeah, you
when
don't
it
have to
comes,
travel too far.
yeah, so community felt a little bit stronger since COVID on that side. And obviously there's cosplay online and how COVID basically, a lot of the, I'm going to use the term common cosplayer. I don't really know what that means, to be honest. I feel like defining it would be quite difficult, but quite a lot of people basically went online and then produced things online. But that's a job in itself. So cosplaying went from something you do in your spare time, a creative outlet, to then basically self-branding and then marketing. So you kind of had to have like 3 jobs in one, and you more or less were pushed to learn that skill. But if you still physically attend conventions and you still go to those communities, I do feel like they are more or less the same since COVID. So it depends on which kind of lens you want to go down. But in terms of physically attending, more or less the same for me. Like when I've showed up and I'm like, let's play League of Legends, let's find some League people. Like that's grown since COVID, so that it's all good for me. Sunshine rainbows, all on my end.
I think you spotted a couple of good points. That a few cons died because of COVID. I remember MCM Manchester as well, and there was actually one in Scotland as well, which also died a horrible death. So we lost a few cons, but then in the midst of all of those sad fires, yes, MegaCon was born. MegaCon is actually run by the ex MCM owner. So that's why it feels like a younger MCM. It felt like what it was maybe 10 years ago, a bit more, relaxed, like no banning of going onto the green grass. You know what I mean when I say that.
Sadly.
And AnimeCon is a new one as well, which is in London and I believe Birmingham. So yeah, there's a few new cons. Oh yeah, and yeah, the one that you mentioned, the Monopoly one. I only recently heard about that one, so that was interesting to hear. And again, the emphasis on more of online presence for community. I totally forgot about that. I did actually remember during COVID, they did a few conventions online, and I thought it was strange, like including Hyper Japan. they did that online as well, and they sold online tickets to like go to workshops and stuff, which I thought was bizarre because you didn't have any of the stuff to make something in the workshop. So yeah, some of it I think was not successful. Some of it I think did help, like you said, branding and marketing for each cosplay, because they had to invest that time that they actually had now because they were stuck at home, not allowed to leave the house. And what did you think is about that whole aspect of COVID affecting cosplay community, Bex?
I'm going to come from a different angle and a little bit of a negative angle as well, because I can see it from I'm going to say an elder cosplayer. Oh my gosh, I made myself sound old. But when COVID hit, there was a big, massive shift in the older community, older cosplay community, on how we approached and treated each other and the etiquette that we had to what it is currently at the moment now. And there was some elitism at the time, but it seemed to have got a little bit more worse for wear as we have come out of the sort of back end of COVID. And I just think that that cosplay etiquette that we had right at the beginning has kind of sort of diminished a little bit, whereas we're all the staple of trying to keep the cosplay is for everyone sort of tagline alive, because it's for everyone. It's costume play. That's exactly what it says on the tin. But it just seems that we'd lost that along the way a little bit with COVID. And then a lot of people also learnt to then monetize their content and to do stuff like because I mean, we didn't really have many sale. Well, we didn't use cosplay to sort of like go out in public and do stuff because of COVID. So a lot of people would have gone on to like Patreon. TikTok managed to start booming as well. A lot more people became on TikTok because of COVID. A lot more people then branched out to doing streaming and other content creation avenues. But when cosplay conventions started coming back again, there was just nearly this expectation, especially with creator passes that I saw as well, that there was the expectation that I should get a creator pass because I've done this, 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 and this. And it's not always a guarantee. That's the only sort of negative side that
Expectation on the cosplayer part.
Yes, on the cosplayer part.
Oh,
So
that's
like
interesting.
there was this expectation that or everyone seems to think that followers is the main priority, when it's not about that at all. It was about the integrity, and it was about what you brought to the cosplay community and how you sort of encouraged others. And not only that, in terms of creator passes, I think what gets lost a lot as well is that you're there to promote the convention that you've been given the creator pass for, and that a lot of people lost sight of that, again with the whole sort of cosplay community changing when it hit COVID. And it sort of brings back into the whole thing that Aisha was saying, that again everyone was a bit scared not to touch anyone or come close to anyone, and rightly so, because it was a very serious and sort of dangerous time. And although we do look back on it now and laugh, and we haven't adapted them sort of rules correctly, or from what I can see anyway. I still have fantastic community of cosplayers that I know. Many are in this chat, and I know so many cosplayers that are very talented. But yeah, that's that. I'm only coming from that negative side there a little bit, because I have seen a big change in the cosplay community.
Yeah, I guess. Like, you guys all know, like, Yaya Han, Jessica Negri. There was a time when people were like, we're going to become cosplay stars, cosplay celebrities, we're going to become models. I remember seeing so many people's, like, dreams crash and burn. Yeah, that's not a thing. And maybe in America.
We would not become stars still with that, because it sounds like, from what Bex was saying, that should have made it more democratized, but it sounds like an opposite effect.
It's more
See, this-
accessible, I'd say. As in, we now have the means to produce everything that we need to in terms of maybe getting an audience, and but again, it's more marketing rather than I make silly costume, haha, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's like, it's kind of separated the community from trying to sell something, and something is usually the influencer as a brand, which I think has always been on YouTube as a big thing prior to COVID, but then cosplay kind of got its taste in the limelight with TikTok, I think. That kind of created a boom for the again, it was always there, but I just think it just became bigger. More eyes equals more opportunities, I think.
Well, that's a really good point then. So, has social media changed what we consider as a good cosplay?
Oh, 100%. 100%. The internet is not it's a scary place.
Only if you believe in it.
Oh,
Only-
yes, the block button is your friend.
Very much. Well, obviously, there's only a certain amount of people you can block, but if you just make things that make you happy and then go and water the plants, no one can hurt you.
It's very true. I like that. I'm taking.
Take
Where do
it,
I get a
honestly.
plaque?
You can get a plant on the Facebook Marketplace, being cute. I go to Aldi and just buy some seeds. Get your own seeds from a tomato. Man, life is great.
So, we're going to talk a little bit about like digital manipulation in cosplay. So, as we've mentioned briefly about AI becoming common, like tools like Photoshop, filters have led to interesting questions about authenticity and craft. Is digitally altering or creating elements of a costume still cosplay? Let's talk about the boundaries, where they lie, and what is cosplay, what isn't. For example, how do you feel about applying and participating in convention competitions? So, like, let's say, like Euro cosplay, and then you've digitally enhanced all your photos that you've used in the application. Do you think that should be allowed, or?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I think if anything, you're just hurting your chances
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
in that sense. Because obviously, with cosplay contests, especially if you're looking at kind of more competitive levels, and going up that sort of road, you have to go through a series of pre-judging, which involves people quite literally picking at the seams of your cosplay to make sure, number one, that they are made by you, and number two, that they look like the reference material that you've provided, whether that's reference material from the media that you're cosplaying from or reference material of yourself in that cosplay. They will know where you've enhanced, what you've enhanced, potentially even how you've enhanced it. So there's no real getting around that. And I mean, if you present this incredibly, gorgeous edited piece, they will be expecting to see that in real life. And so you're only hurting your own chances by doing that, I think. If anything, that's why a lot of, most, in fact, contests nowadays, they stress the importance of build books. So a build book is essentially kind of like a portfolio of how you made what you're competing in.
Showing the working.
Yeah, exactly. You show your working, you show what you used, the fabrics, the materials, whatever it is that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
did.
Just
And
like
these
mass
build
class.
books, exactly. And the build books, you need to provide photographic evidence of you doing these things. And I mean, they're very, very detailed, but it's better for you to provide more detail about how you've done things because it gives the panels and the judges and things opportunities to ask about your technique. And if they like a certain thing about your technique, that could very much work in your favor when it comes to your overall kind of scoring among the contestants. So it's photo editing is a wonderful thing when it comes to being a content creator, especially online, because you can, like Coco said before, and Bekzxx as well, you can create the most incredible art. And at the core of it, it's you in your cosplay that you've made, but you can, enhance it to look like you are not even on this planet, and it looks incredible, absolutely stunning. And that makes for wonderful content online. But then it's always a dangerous kind of line there when you're going to then use those same pictures to enter into something that people are going to see in real life and kind of judge you on your craftsmanship in real life.
Yeah, it just becomes embarrassing at this point because it's like, even
It
I
kind of
want
becomes like you're
people.
contending with yourself. Like, how do I live up to this expectation of what I've made and I've presented? You know what I mean?
It's not real then. And
Yeah.
then even if you're stalling for time, as in you're finishing that thing to look like it, you will never be able to get that perfection that you've done in the photo, right?
I mean, it's difficult to say. Obviously, with photo editing, sometimes you can't even tell things are edited nowadays. It is very difficult sometimes to know what's real and what isn't. But obviously, there's a certain level of realism. Things like certain textures, you just can't magic them out of nothing, you know what I mean? And definitely when it comes to making more detailed pieces, like if your expectation is that I can just make this thing and put no effort into it, then it's not going to happen like that. You know, it's not like sitting at your desk and making something using, let's say, using AI, for example. You can generate so much using AI now, but you can't do that in real life. So as I said, when it comes to creating art online, it might make the most incredible piece that you've ever seen, but that doesn't mean it's going to look like that in real life. And I think in the long run, it just detriments you, as it detriments your integrity. It makes you seem less real to edit more and work less, you know? Like AI and editing and photo manipulation, it should never replace real hard work.
Agreed.
I definitely agree.
It's interesting. I 100% agree with Dani, especially with the integrity. It's very much like you got to say what you can do so that we can trust you, if that makes sense, in terms of like an online perspective, because you have to separate the fact that obviously, you know, a real live dragon and its egg won't actually be in my hand. So AI can obviously kind of be quite goofy, but it also adds an element of distrust if you're like, oh, say maybe if I was a lot younger and it was more to do with an ideal, obviously there is no such thing as looking an ideal way, but if it was to come to how to do makeup or things like that and then trusting what you see, if you always know that AI might be there, and if you're trained to know that there is some form of editing in place, then you're okay. But if you're not and you're more vulnerable to that, it can do more damage than good. So that's, I think, in general, why people tend to use less editing. And so that's kind of, direction that I think we should continue to go in. But the only thing that I would probably use, and again, this becomes more of art than it does cosplay, and I think that's the only thing we should separate more of. Say, for example, if I have like I want to edit a black gown, I would have a black shirt and then I'll use that color and I'll like pinch that color in an area and then paste it somewhere else. But that would then become me literally painting on a canvas. I know technically you can AI that, but you also then, you couldn't take that cosplay to an event. You couldn't take that because it's all edited because it's not real. So it's just one of those things where it depends on what you as an artist want to do versus what you as a cosplayer wants to do. And I think it becomes a different field that you're going to go down if you want to use less editing and more AI. So Dani, again, completely correct. I think a good majority of cosplayers would also agree. Obviously, I'm in a situation where money not always good. So, doing closet cosplays and things like that, you can very much tell that it's not sewn. I wouldn't really enter a contest with like clothes that were made by someone else or anything like that. And I feel like it will lower, I think the term is credibility. Like, you are less honest of a person if you enter competition, even if you wear clothes from charity shop kind of situation. So whether it's AI or whether it's like not your own work, that comes down to the trust between you and the person that's then grading you, I suppose, because that's kind of what competitions are about. It's a very competitive field, but it should only be competitive when you enter a competition. Outside of
you.
a competition,
Oh
it
my God.
shouldn't be anything other than that. So yeah, otherwise, I will literally dress up as a potato on a good day. And I'm perfectly happy to do that because my character is probably going to be a potato as well. So yeah, I think that's everything I needed to add. I don't think there's anything taken away from the discussion.
Perfect. And Bex, did you have any last thoughts on this question?
No, I agree with both of them. I think the term digital cosplay is very new to me. I still think that should be an editorial or an editorial art piece in terms of cosplay. When you are competing, you have to fill out a book with so many sort of screenshots of all the intricate details that you do. They mark up everything. They take you into a separate room. They check over your garments to make sure that you have sort of made them all yourself. They check for labels, anything like that. So to digitally edit yourself in your book that you have to present, I mean, by all means, after you have competed and got whatever you want for the cosplay in terms of its grading, whatever, if you've won that cosplay competition and you want to go and have a photo and you can't go out to the Alps or you can't wherever your cosplay character is, because let's face it, some of us can't go to space. So maybe your character, that
Only
sort
if
of
your
like,
best friend's name is Jeff.
Oh,
yes.
Exactly.
But then I wouldn't mind like seeing that piece then sort of digitally edited for a photo. That's fine, but don't edit that photo within the cosplay competition, because again, it's the credibility of you actually competing with what is the task that is set. You're given strict rules of 80% you need to make, and then some of it is down to performance. Then yeah, but I would stick to the rules and just go from there.
so do you think it's worth like digital cosplay being its own legitimate category?
I think it's a bit of an interesting one because, when it comes to the way, and this feels so weird because I've literally done like art in every educational form, like literally through high school all the way up to having a master's. I feel like it's one of those things where if you cannot see it subjectively as a piece of art anyway, then cosplay, like, you can't really look down the same lens. Like if you wanted to have it as, okay, this is like my piece of art that is cosplay that is now digital is digital cosplay, you can have that, but I do feel like it's just a more pedantic way of saying this is digital art. Like for me, as an artist as well as a cosplayer, it's more like, is this digital? Is it not digital? Like if I took a picture of a cosplay just on a mannequin, like, is that then digital art, or is it me taking a picture of something that's physical? So you can put things in a box if you need it to, but at the end of the day, cosplay is still art anyway. But if it helps others, and most of the time this is a good thing to do, because having that form of separation can then help people who are looking more directly into it. Say, for example, if I wanted to work for a magazine and I wanted to look at different ways to manipulate an image, then I could go down the cosplay digital route and I can find some answers there. Then yes, having a separate category is helpful. And it is also helpful if someone is making a physical cosplay and they are just doing cosplay that is not digital, and that's there. They won't have the tag of it being digital on their, I don't know, say Instagram. That then helps the viewer with a separation. The only issue is that whenever you put any form of guidelines for anything, there's always going to be a grey area. There's like, no one is here to school you online, so there's no way of implementing these unless they are self-regulated essentially. And usually that's kind of, it can be done by your peers, but I mean, other than a piece of advice of just be a trustworthy person online, there's really nothing you can kind of do to regulate that space. So having a separate category, I think, does help. I think it will also help if there's any negativity towards digital cosplay. So I think it's always a good direction for progress to be like, okay, that's its own category now. Let's hope there aren't any arguments, and then kind of leave it at that. But I do think it's up for more discussion, because you don't have to sit in one box. If you do make digital cosplay but then you have a physical cosplay and go to a convention, does that make you any less better as a cosplayer? No, because it's not a competition, and that's kind of their own battles in their own space. But yeah, I don't see the harm in having a separate category of digital cosplayer.
See, I would say for the sort of newer generation coming into cosplay, that term might be better understood by them, in terms of it being, again, a category, like Coco said, to label yourself under, so that there's no confusion between the two of cosplaying and sort of editing. From my own standpoint, I don't see or don't feel the need, but then that's because I've been doing this for a long time, so I know the difference, but the newer generations coming into this may not.
That makes sense. I mean, this is the thing. It would be nice, like, so if someone did embellish their submission and they submitted it, and the judges could straight away see, well, this weapon that they have in this photo doesn't look real, perhaps we should let them know that this is the wrong category they've applied for. They should apply for the digital art, digital cosplay category. It would be a good way to then direct some of the ones who are maybe being a bit ambitious and putting it in the wrong category. Could be an idea, but this is all just up for us to have a little discussion about. How do you feel, Dani?
Yeah, I'm like I said, I kind of agree with everything that you guys have already said. I don't really have much more to add. I think you guys have covered it pretty perfectly. But as I say, I think definitely embellishing in photos and can be really, really good for making content, but not necessarily for representing what you actually look like. And I think we're all, in a sense, we're all kind of guilty of it. I'll put my hands up and say, although I'm not the biggest, like I said, I wouldn't ask for edits and things. It doesn't mean I haven't posted edited work or work that is enhanced in ways. But at the same time, I wouldn't use those kinds of images when it came to things like a competition or whatever. Like I'd want to be able to actually show off what I've made. So I tend to go for something that focuses a bit more on that. So to kind of like keep that balance.
Great point. We're going to move away off that touchy subject and we're going to go to cosplay career versus cosplay culture. There seems to be a growing distinction between the act of cosplaying itself, dressing up as a character, and the wider cosplay culture with photography, social media, competitions, and professional careers. To wrap up, we'll look at these distinctions and what it means for the community. So, has the commercialization of cosplay changed the spirit of the hobby? And I touched upon it briefly before when I mentioned a few of the bigger cosplayers who kind of turned the hobby into a business. How do you feel about this, Dani?
I definitely think there is. I don't think necessarily a lot of people agree with the distinction, but I definitely think that there is one. It kind of goes a little bit back to, at least from what I've seen, what you were saying earlier on about how COVID kind of changed things within the cosplay scene. I feel like post COVID, there's definitely been this bigger emphasis on making a career out of cosplaying. And I think that's definitely come with the rise of platforms like TikTok and, in a sense, Instagram as well, where obviously people are able to monetize their cosplays and monetize kind of themselves as a brand. And it, weirdly enough, it seems like a lot of cosplayers nowadays, when they come into it, they don't. It's like, for when I feel like I speak for all of us, but when we all started, we all just kind of wanted to put costumes on and have fun and like dress up as a character. I feel like a lot of cosplayers nowadays get into cosplay because they want to become a famous online cosplayer. They have it in the back of their minds that this is the goal that I want to achieve. It's not as common nowadays for people to cosplay just because it's fun and because it's something that takes them out of the real world for a day, which is kind of where I started, and I'm assuming where Bekzxx and Coco and yourself as well, Aisha, started.
Yeah, I think people want to be noticed. They want to be the next.
Yes, yeah. Everyone wants to be the next Nayaya Han or the next Jessica Nigri or whatever. Everybody wants to be, known for their cosplays and for their stuff. And I mean, it's nice in a sense because obviously people have that passion and people are willing to put in that time and they're willing to, I mean, you see a lot of cosplayers nowadays that come into it and they have so much talent, whether it's like crafting or performing or makeup or whatever, and so much has come from it as well, like so many different almost like avenues of cosplay, if that makes sense. Like face and body painting has grown massively, and things like using certain materials and going down the kind of technology route and things, so many different things have come from it. But I do think that a lot of people nowadays have a goal in mind of, I want to cosplay because I want to be big and famous, not just because I want to dress up. And yeah, so it is definitely something that has been more prevalent, I'd say, in the last sort of 5 years or so since COVID.
It was such a cute time when you could just go with your mates and you do a little group cosplay together and be like,
Little like Saturday meetups at the local cafe or something, get a cup of
Yeah.
coffee and a sandwich and just sitting, like everyone's sewing or everyone's working on something.
just so cute. And then like when you go together at the event, it's like such a hype when you meet another
Yeah.
person in the same group and you're like, let's come together.
Yes.
picture and I mean, I'm sure that vibe still is there. There are pockets of people who still do it for the fun and the love of it, and like I'm sure, yeah, all of us can probably agree in the chat, apart from Nigel. We need to get Nigel indoctrinated, obviously. Uh, um,
Join us.
but yeah, no, you can tell because I can see queues for people sometimes to get photos, and some of these cosplayers literally only want to work with the top photographers, and you're just like, hey, can I have a selfie? Literally, that's it. But it is what it is, right? How do you feel about it, Bex?
I said it before, and I think Danny's hit the nail on the head, though. And it ties all of the discussions that we've been talking about. The professionalism of cosplay then turns into I need to cosplay the latest thing really quickly before anybody else does it so that I can get the views, so that people can then validate that section of, I don't know. I've fallen into that stigmatism at one point in my life, so I feel very hypocritical saying this, but it's then you get into the point where, oh, I've got to look perfect, so therefore I'll edit myself to look perfect. And then that's that whole massive train of stigmatism of being that professional cosplayer. And for instance, I'm going to take this, and I'm so sorry because I'm also in this same train. K-pop Demon Hunters has come out, and then everyone wants to cosplay. And there's people that want to cosplay it for the fun of it because we love it. We love the show, we love the songs, and we really, really want to do it. And then there's people that just want to cosplay it because they know it's popular currently at the moment. And then what I see then is the waste of that cosplay. It just gets tossed aside so that they then can cosplay the next best thing. Whereas we come from a culture that will reuse that cosplay and do it again and again and again and have the love for that fandom. Yeah.
And it's really nice to see because you're a great example because you've like become a face for the Hope character from what's it called? Marvel
From
Rivals.
Fortnite. Fortnite.
No.
I mean, they all go into one nowadays.
It all merges into.
Exactly. What Marvel character don't you know that's not in Fortnite?
Yeah.
But like, how do you cope with all the pressure? Because I guess when they change the skins, do you feel like you need to keep up with that?
A little bit, yes, because the comments online now kind of fuel the way that we take cosplay. Because if you're not cosplaying the next thing, the comments under the previous the cosplay are like, "Well, why haven't you done this one yet?" And you're just like, "Oh my gosh, are you gonna money, please?
Yeah,
Money, please?"
yeah. Seriously, like, damn.
And there's that whole pressure of trying to keep on top of things. But in terms of my story when it comes to Fortnite and the cosplays that I picked, I held back for a long, long time cosplaying Fortnite because I thought, one, it was a kid's game, which it's not anymore. It's evolved into so much more. And two, I thought nobody would want to see a Fortnite cosplay. And it took me so long to get over the realization that I don't care. I want to do it because I'm having fun. And Hope came into the storyline. And I used to dress like Hope when I was 15, 16. In fact, most of the stuff of that original cosplay comes from my 15 to 16-year-old wardrobe because I'm a hoarder and keep things. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to reuse and repurpose things that I had never worn in a long time and be this character that I have some sort of emotional connection with. And I think then, because I love that character so much, that it's now boomed and rocketed and shown people that if you love something so much and you put your hard work into it, that the payoff will come, but it'll be for the better, for a good reason of a payoff, not because you're then pressured to do something. It's because you're doing what you love, and that's what the whole definition of cosplay should be.
Absolutely. And that's lovely that you found that affinity with Hope and it's shined through. And that's why people just see you as, oh, it's the Hope girl, the Hope cosplayer, which
I
is
get
really sweet.
like yourself, I get so many people online going, I don't see Hope anymore. I see Bekzxx in Fortnite. I'm just going to take a screenshot and just send it to her. And I'm like, okay, great. Thank you.
So cute. Almost a little bit stalkery, but hey, they're fans and I admire their passion for you and the character. Oh. What about yourself, Coco? Do you feel like the commercialization of cosplay has changed the spirit of the hobby?
Oh, fully. mainly I did have a tangent with this, and I held on to it for too long that I forgot the question, and that's why. The tangent that I was going to add, or the very important point actually, is that when it comes to the commercialization of more or less anything, there's always going to be a demand for. I feel like fast fashion has come into cosplay
Oh God,
through that. But I also feel like when it comes to representation, it always has an interesting kind of like foot. So whenever I do characters, I always feel like they're characters that don't get a lot of limelight. Like is that the word? The big
Mm.
headlight, main beam in a car.
The big
They
bright
aren't
light
the
thing.
big one that
Yeah,
point
yeah.
at the
Like
cosplay.
Batman. We get that.
Oh, fully. It's always a character that's like not, you can't just go and buy this character. So I basically go a full 180 and avoid the level of commercialism. But it's weird because it's always like, say, for example, K-pop Demon Hunters, instead of going down the route of, oh, I'm going to be one of the three main characters, it's like, can I be that one character in the background, like the demon that's crying with the little like glow sticks? Like, I really want to do the character that has the least amount of screen time. For me, is the best kind of character. So I always try to do those because I feel like it really pads out the kind of the love for that thing, because I absolutely spammed K-pop Demon Hunter when it came out, including obviously the soundtrack. But it was also like, oh, I wonder how they came up with the designs for the demons and things like that, and then it just kind of again down the artistic route of just going and exploring everything that was like quiet and in the background and then bringing that to the front. For me, I haven't done a K-pop Demon Hunters cosplay, but I do a lot of League of Legends ones, and just to kind of bring fast fashion into it, I feel like as a community, looking at MCM, more particularly London, over the last few years, it kind of went from like Genshin to like Has Been Hotel, and then like there's just been a lot of trends with cosplays that come out. They're usually based on like whatever's come out on Netflix as well, just like in general. So obviously like the Wednesday TV show's coming out, so I feel like there's going to be an influx of that. So whatever's coming up, the most that people can be relevant, the more that people will want to cosplay from there. And honestly, that is a hustle that I fully respect. But I know that I don't have the brain power. So I'm just going to stick with characters that no one has seen. But then you're like, oh, that's the one person that does this thing. It's not necessarily a niche because they are like popular enough for someone to recognize it. Because I like the idea of the character to be recognizable. So, say, for me, I tend to go with a lot of the brown characters from League of Legends because there is very minimal representation of the like you can't just go and buy that character off
Yeah.
basically anywhere. So I always end up going down that route. But that's not to say that I'm always cosplaying brown characters. It's just I cosplay my favorite characters, and also in League, some of them just so happen to be brown. Some of them are alien lizards, and we all love that. But like, it's just up to like I just feel like with such a big environmental impact as well, I go on Vinted so much just to buy things to then completely tweak them, damage them, which feels really sad when you first get it and you're like, what a nice t-shirt, and then you just throw like mud on it. So in terms of commercialism, I'm just trying to not push it away, because again, you have to respect the hustle because people are going through so much more. And, no one can be upset with me if I'm just in my room throwing mud on a t-shirt. Some people, those who are very lucky enough to do it as a full-time thing or aspire to do that, we can't say that their fight is invalid. So it's like on the one side, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to celebrate the fact that they are doing a character that they enjoy because they are putting their time and their effort into said thing. But then on the flip side of that, it's like, okay, I'm still going to put as equal amount of time and, dedication to said thing. But whether it's a bought cosplay or not a bought cosplay shouldn't matter either. As long as you like the character, keep going. And I'll keep doing my space alien from League.
Absolutely. I like it when people do the random character who has a really funny one-liner, and then you don't see him again for the rest of the movie or the series. And then when you see an actual fan be like, "Oh my God, you're that
You get
Just
it.
your
Yeah.
character. It just brings joy to your heart, doesn't it?
Fully, so much.
I absolutely love that. And just a little bit more into this, the hustle. What role do photographers play in modern cosplay, and how has their importance evolved? When I first started cosplaying back in the merry days of the early 2000s, so photographers weren't a thing. It was just fans coming and taking pictures. And it was just walking around having a good time. And then obviously, as it evolved and people's cosplays became a bit more complex, or people started taking competitive cosplay quite seriously, suddenly this new wave of photographers, or I hate this nickname, togs, appeared like an army of them. And at some point I got lumbered into that because I was doing press, so I was doing a lot of journalist activities, reporting and so forth. So I met them, saw them, and saw what an influence that they were putting on certain cosplayers. And they were like almost like picking them out and being like, you are going to be really big. You should carry on doing this. It came to a point, I believe, after lockdown, I'll never forget this. One photographer who just left me feeling a little bit uneasy, but they were talking, they came up to me, but not to talk to me, but they wanted me to introduce them to my friend. And they basically looked her up and down and went, "Oh, you know what? I'd love to do a shoot with you. You should dress up as that character from Demon Slayer." And then he said the name, and I was tweaking my head because I was Demon Slayer fan, and I was like, "Which character is this?" And then she just looked at me and went, "Oh, the one with the really big boobs hanging out." And I just went, "Oh, charming." She was like, I'll think about it. And then that kind of just stuck in my head that he kind of like manipulated the situation, because looking at her body type and thinking, "Oh yeah, you'll get loads of pictures if you dress like that character and kind of basically show off your assets." And that really got me. And some of the people probably will do that to get, I guess, attention because they're not used to it, or like we mentioned before, to kind of be like noticed and hopefully get, some sort of cosplay fame. And yeah, no, it does kind of get me a little bit. I guess some people go there with maybe the sole intention of just being like spotted by photographers and just getting that exposure, I guess. But is it exposure? I don't know. You tell me. Do you want to take it away, Bex?
I just want to start off by saying everyone goes to conventions for different reasons, okay? I mean, I choose conventions as buying a lot of stuff, seeing friends, and also as well, if I've worked really hard on a costume, I want a really good photo. So I will go and find, and I've been doing this for years, so I know very, very sort of safe and reputable photographers within the community. And I will go and I'll ask them if they're busy and ask if they want to shoot my cosplay. I think now what the general stigmatism is, or what I've seen in the last couple of years, and again, I've changed and adapted as a cosplayer, is that in order to get them or those photographers' attention in the first place, my mind was I need to be a sexy cosplayer because they won't shoot my cosplay unless my cosplay is tight fitting, or I'm a superhero that is kind of popular but not too popular enough that they don't want to shoot too many of that cosplay, and it then that gets that added pressure. um but I'd like to think now that the being, or where I've been, that I've weeded them photographers out, and I'm not going to the photographers that make me feel uneasy or unsafe. And I know the ones in the community that they know you as a person and they just think your costume is cool and they just want to shoot your costume, and then you've got something to post online as a little bit of a memorabilia to say that I was here, this looks pretty sick as a photo. What do you think, guys? But yeah, I think that whole stigmatism now of anyone could be a photographer, because I've seen people now taking photos on their phones and saying that they're a photographer and doing certain angles, but they'll only approach certain cosplays to write it off, shall we say. But conventions nowadays have very good security in place.
Yeah, you just need to give the nod and be like, "Security!" Yep. How do you feel about that, Dani?
Right. I kind of want to preface this by saying that when I went to my first Southern Con, which was London MCM a couple of years ago, I was so shocked by the whole photography scene and like the emphasis that people put on shooting with photographers, I had never seen anything like it. Yes, when I used to go to like a lot more local, kind of smaller events, yes, there were photographers, but it tended to be two of them, maybe three. Everyone knew who they were. They were very well known around the area, and like it was such a small kind of event that if you wanted pictures, then you go to the two or the three people, and then that was it. It was just kind of like a part of your day. There was no like scheduling of shoots and finding locations and like cues and all of the, I hate to say this, but all of the vanity that comes with it. All of that was so new to me. And it, yeah, it's definitely, I can't really comment on what it's like in terms of progression because that was one of the first big changes that I ever noticed at the bigger conventions. And that hasn't really shifted or changed. It's still a massive thing. I am also now like in a position where when I go to an event and I've put in all this hard work, I want to shoot with photographers. I want shots to then be able to share with my community and with my friends and show off. But I also have friends who are photographers who I would like to collaborate with, and whose work I admire, and I want to see their take on me in this cosplay. But it was such a big difference, a big stark difference for me. And I actually went, when I went to London for the first time, I took a cosplay that I didn't realize was going to be as popular as it was. And I was very much thrown into this thing of like left and right. People were just like, can I shoot with you? Can I shoot? And I didn't understand that that meant a shoot, not just snapping a picture and being like, great, I'll send it you later. Bye. But it is definitely something it has a huge part of every cosplayer's journey. Like every cosplayer at some point will want to work with at least one photographer, if not like someone they know, then someone whose work they've seen online, someone who they've seen cosplayers they admire shoot with and be like, I want to look like that one day, or I want that kind of level. And a lot of the photographers, they do have their own, they also are a brand. They also have their own editing styles. They also have their own flair that they put into their work where you look at it and you recognize it and you go, that's this person's photography, that's that person's photography. It's such a big thing nowadays. I actually like it. I think it's a great thing. I think that the same way that we cosplayers work hard on looking the way that we do, photographers work hard on making us look the way that we do afterwards, if that makes sense. Like they put so much time into curating how they want these shots to look and how they want to edit them and how they want, who they want to work with as well. But on the flip side of that, I've also had, unfortunately, the experience of similar to what you were saying before, Prinny, where I had a photographer that specifically didn't want to shoot with me because I was too clothed for his liking. And he actually said that to me. And that took me aback just as much as, the amount of photographers that did want to work with me. That one comment really stuck with me of, you're a bit too covered up for me.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It is a very tentative thing, I think. A lot of photographers are incredible. You'll have the one or two odd ones here and there that are very inappropriate and that can make it a negative experience, I think, for some. But obviously, it's all about, like Bekzxx was saying, it's all about being comfortable. And I definitely think that, especially I've seen in the last year, this emphasis on safety measures when it comes to shooting with photographers has become a massive thing, like especially all over. For me personally, I go on Instagram because that's my main platform, but it's become a big thing, where you'll see cosplayers, non-cosplayers, friends of cosplayers, but also photographers as well turn around and say, bring a chaperone with you, bring a friend, we'll shoot in open places, we'll shoot, they want to make it a safer space for everyone.
That's great. It's good to have the consideration from both sides as well. So, especially if you've not shot with them before, and then obviously if you have had a good experience, you would start that relationship of trust between each other for working with each other in the future. And last but not least, Coco, how do you feel about that?
I do think photographers, especially more recently, have had a very big part on the cosplay scene. Similar to Dani, when I first went to a convention, again as my charity shop Esmeralda, it was very much just like, oh my god, I love Disney, let's go woo. And then over the years it's just kind of been like, oh well, through my favorite characters I've not seen people do these super niche ones, so I'd like to get a bit more professional looking photos for doing something, for doing a character, sorry. I do think if I came away from a convention without a shoot, I think personally I'd still be just as happy as if I did like 10. But I also think it's definitely more of a job role to be a model, because it's such a good conversation to have with photographers. Having the experience of doing, you know, photography in my A level, like I understand the behind the scenes, you know, the ISO, the shutter speed, and how the science goes with that, and how expensive the equipment can be. But then also on the flip side of, well, I've also like spent the time and effort and money into the cosplay as well, and then learning how to pose, or, you know, there's such a complex science on both ends that it's just another skill to gain on the very many skills that cosplayers have, you know. It's definitely like skill harvesting. Like when I first started, it was very much like, okay, these colors are vaguely what this character looks like. So now right at the end I'm like, oh, I don't think, you know, this linen fabric would work for this armor plate, you know. Like it's very down to looking at my own cosplay in that way, and then it's down to talking to the photographers about stuff. And I'd say maybe this time last year it would have been my like number 2 priority was to have a shoot, whereas now it's just like it's definitely more about having fun at a con. So similar to Dani and Bekzxx and, you know, yourself, it's very much like, oh, I actually enjoy hanging out with these people. And they're not just, you know, togs. They actually are people who go home and they, you know, they have to sit down after coming back from a very overstimulating day at a convention, and they have to like upload all of their pictures and then get rid of all the blurry ones and literally go through the entire editing process. So we as cosplayers have like after con blues where we're like, oh no, I missed all of my con friends. And then the photographers are like, oh no, I have so much of a backlog to work on, and also the previous con that I didn't work on. So it's very much like it shouldn't have to feel, you know, hopefully it shouldn't have to feel like a job away from work. But I do feel like both cosplayers and photographers and videographers, you know, there are some with moving pictures who have quite a lot of work to go through. But I do hope it doesn't come off as work and then it does go down as a hobby. And, you know, my first experience with doing a shoot was like, oh, that was cool. You know, someone actually wanted to just get a couple of different angles so that they can show off the cosplay as much as possible. And after that, it was then, I think I did have 1 or 2 negative experiences. I was doing Kamala Khan Miss Marvel, who again is a teenager, so a lot of photographers wouldn't want to do that. But, you know, I'm over the age of 20 when I was doing it. So I was like, but this, you know, this character needs representation. There's not a lot of people that do, you know, photography based around that. Obviously you shouldn't sexualize a character, but posing isn't always sexual. You know, I'm like beating up a bad guy doing a superhero Spider-Man pose. And then, but if they've not heard of the superhero, they're like, oh, well, I don't really want to take a picture. And I'm like, yeah, but this is really important because this is like the representation of, you know, in this instance, small Muslim girls that want to beat up the bad guy sometimes with their stretchy arms, like, hello. And I think that kind of thing should be represented. So when it comes to the photographer having to pick and choose between who they take pictures of, I do obviously know it's their hobby too. So if they've never heard of this character, then they probably don't want to take a picture of it. I do go to conventions specifically for photography. There's one called Secret Con that's hosted by Darren, aka iPhoto UK. Is absolutely fantastic. But he hosts these events where he goes specifically to big locations, the most recent one being a castle in the middle of nowhere. Really good, to be fair. It was actually amazing, you know, lots of car parking space and stuff like that. Because when you go to a con, you're very much given the backdrop of loads of people everywhere, or, you know, there's like a stretched out backdrop, or the photographers trying.
We gotta love the
Yeah, the
corridors, right?
corridors, the trees in MCM, like
Don't
they're
forget
trying to.
the one shady car park in every convention center.
Yeah, the one
Oh
shady car
yes.
park. Sorry, Manchester's get like in that as well because that's the only place you can shoot. But even then, you're in a car park, so the lighting is terrible. So the fact
Grey
that
walls.
that Darren at iPhoto, he's like, yeah, no, we can do better than this. We should give these cosplayers the best chance that they possibly can, but also we should challenge the photographers by giving them an actual good backdrop. So if you wanted to go and get better stuff, obviously there's a free plug into iPhoto UK and what he does, and he can organize a group of people, and they're usually vetted as well, so you can feel very safe knowing that, and it's never about numbers, so it's really, really good to go down that route. But obviously, in the more local like MCM, MegaCon, and those lot, I don't go specifically for photo shoots. If I left, I wouldn't need to have a shoot when I leave it. I'd like to take I don't know, a selfie to be like, I definitely wore this on this day, kind of thing, as a memento. But again, it's not a hustle, it's a hobby. So
No, agreed. It's hobby first. Who knows what it turns into? As mentioned before, like it's different for everyone. The reasons for going and those reasons probably change with years and age and feet hurting. Massive thank you to Coco, Dani, and Bekzxx for sharing your cosplay journeys with myself, Nigel, and the listeners. For the listeners out there, please let us know your feedback from the Cosplay Roundtable, what you thought, and what you'd like to hear more about to studio77@mayamada.com.
Thank you for that, everyone. I learned a lot, and I feel we need to have more cosplay conversations. We've had some in the past, and definitely more in the future. Maybe a live stream or something video in future. But yeah, thank you all. And just before we wrap up, just want to let people know where we can find your work and see your cosplays. So Coco, do you want to let us know just like social media handles, things like that?
I am calling me Coco on every platform ever on the planet. Just to
Cool.
keep it consistent. But yeah, it's calling me Coco.
Nice. And Bex, how about yourself?
I'm Bekzxx. I don't know if you could pick that up, but that's 2 kisses.
Was that a kiss?
That was 2 kisses. It's not just one. I had to come with 2.
Oi, oi.
But yeah,
One for
it's
me, one for Coco, right?
yeah, of course, yeah.
Perfect.
But it's BEKZXX on all platforms. It does change, but if you just type that in, you'll be able to find me.
Cool. Thank you very much. And Dani, let us know where we can see your work.
So cosplay wise, so I'm Hijabi Hoo on all platforms. That's Who as in HOO, but also I stream over on Twitch as well, and I do sometimes every now and then do like a casual cosplay for that.
Well, yeah, no, thank you all very much for taking time to talk about cosplay. Hopefully, listeners enjoyed that. If you enjoyed this episode of Story X Story, make sure you subscribe. We have more creative discussions coming and more cosplay discussions, especially after today. So you can also give us a 5-star rating and review, which helps us reach new listeners and fans of story discussions. You can check out our manga online, mayamada.com/manga. And yeah, we've got all our titles there, including the new one, Origins Against All Odds. I was almost going to say the previous one, but you can get that too. And you can join our Discord as well. Chat with us in between episodes. Be part of the Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign, whether you're in the photos, joining an event. Yeah, you can catch us throughout the year, pushing for increased diversity and inclusion in the video games industry and wider culture. And as for the podcast, we have new episodes on Thursdays. Those include creator interviews, video game discussions, and deep dives into stories across pop culture. You can always give us a shout directly. Our email address is studio77@mymatter.com, and our website with links to subscribe is mymatter.com/storyxstory. So thank you for tuning in, and until next time, stay safe. And remember, just like your average maths exam, cosplay is the same. You have to show you're working and carry the one, maybe. Take care, everyone.